Okay, imagine this for a second. You're standing in, say, the toothpaste aisle, just scanning the shelves, and you pick up a box. It's got this nice green leaf symbol. Maybe it says eco-friendly or plant-based.
Hmm.
You feel pretty good about that choice, right? Like you're doing your bit. Then, maybe later, you do a quick search on your phone, and bam, you find out the company behind that product does basically nothing for the environment. That kind of sinking feeling like you've been totally misled, well, you've just experienced greenwashing, and today that's exactly what we're going on, a deep dive into greenwashing. Our mission is to really unpack its definition, understand all the various symptoms, the sneaky tactics companies use. We'll also explore its consequences, which are actually pretty far-reaching. And most importantly, we want to equip you with the essential vocabulary and some practical tools to identify and avoid it. This isn't just for you as a consumer, by the way, but also may be useful for companies out there genuinely trying to be sustainable in, well, a world full of these misleading claims. Okay, so let's unpack this then. What exactly is greenwashing? It sounds like a buzzword, but it's way more than that, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's much more. At its heart, it's a deceptive practice.
Mm.
That's the key word. Companies give a false impression or they provide misleading information about how environmentally sound their stuff is, their products, their services, even their overall operations. It's basically disguising the actual harm they might be doing to the environment with these friendly, feel-good, eco-friendly messages.
Deceptive practice that really cuts to the core of it.
It does. And what's fascinating here, I think, is the term itself. It's a blend, right? Green
Mm.
for ecological concern and whitewashing, which means, covering up wrongdoing. Its origins actually go back to 1986. It was coined by environmentalist Jay Westerveld, who was
Mm.
serving a hotel in Fiji, and they had this towel reuse program.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those signs everywhere. Save the planet,
Yep.
reuse your towel.
Exactly. But Westerveld noticed that while the hotel claimed it was for environmental conservation, the real goal seemed to be just cutting their laundry costs. And this was happening even while the hotel was actively expanding and causing quite a bit of ecological disruption nearby. So that contradiction, that really highlighted the deception.
Wow, so it's been around a while.
Oh, yes. A
Mm.
famous early example in the U.S. was Chevron's People Do campaign back in the late 90s. They ran these ads portraying all this environmental care,
Mm.
while at the same time, the company was actually facing lawsuits for polluting Santa Monica Bay. So, yeah, it's not a new trick.
That historical context is really telling. It shows this isn't just a modern fad.
Hmm?
But why? If it's so deceptive and potentially damaging down the line, why do companies even do it? What's the real driver?
Well, it's largely, I'd say, an attempt to capitalize on very real and growing consumer demand. People genuinely want to make responsible choices. There was a Nielsen IQ report, for instance, that found something like 73% of millennials are more likely to buy a product if they think it's environmentally friendly.
73%. That's huge.
It is. So companies see this. They recognize there's a sustainability premium in the market, meaning, you know, consumers are often willing to pay a bit more for stuff that looks green.
Okay, so they see the demand, they see potential profit.
Exactly. But there's another big factor. It's often significantly cheaper to market sustainability than it is to actually implement real, comprehensive, sustainable practices across your whole supply chain. That takes serious investment.
Ah, so it's a shortcut.
In many ways, yes, a financial shortcut. Plus, there's competitive pressure. If your rivals are making green claims, even if they're fake, you might feel you have to do the same just to keep up. And don't forget investors' ESG funds look for those green credentials too.
Right, so it's this mix of perceived demand, competition, and yeah, maybe just being cheaper than doing the real work. That makes a lot of sense. Which leads us to how. How do they pull this off? What are the specific tactics we, the listeners, should be looking out for? Because once you know the playbook,
That's it. Once you know the playbook, it becomes much easier to spot. And companies use, well, a whole range of methods to create that false impression. Let's maybe walk through some common ones.
please, let's get into the playbook.
Okay, first up, no certification or fake certifications. Legitimately, green products often go through the trouble of getting official, third-party certifications. Things like the Leaping Bunny for cruelty-free, or the Rainforest Lion's Frog, Green Seal. You see them around?
Uh-huh, the recognized one.
Yes. But you need to be really wary of false or fake certifications. Sometimes they just look like the real ones, or they're just fancy labels the company made up itself, with no real transparency or outside checking. If it's not a well-known independent body, you should probably be skeptical.
Right, I've definitely seen some that look a bit Suspicious, like they were designed by their marketing team. What's another one?
Second, a really common one, nature images. Classic visual trick. They'll splash pictures of, beautiful landscapes, trees, leaves, maybe just use a lot of green on the packaging.
Yeah, green equals good, right?
Yeah, that's the association they want, even if the product itself has nothing green about it. Think about plastic water bottles with pictures of pristine mountains on the label.
Haha, yes.
Or think about Shell's ads featuring wind turbines and solar panels, even though their main business is still overwhelmingly fossil fuels. It's about creating that emotional connection without the substance.
Okay, so watch out for pretty pictures that don't match reality. Got it.
Third tactic, and this one is huge, vague claims or ambiguous claims. You see this everywhere. Companies use these broad, undefined terms like green, all-natural, non-toxic, plant-based, sustainable.
All natural gets me every time. Arsenic is all natural.
Exactly. They use these terms without any clear definition or any supporting evidence. Just because a box says plant-based doesn't automatically mean it's good for the environment. It could still have a massive carbon footprint from how it's processed or shipped. Remember Fiji Water? They faced a lawsuit over their carbon negative claim because it apparently didn't account for their total life cycle emissions. These are often completely unsubstantiated claims.
So if it's not specific about how it's green, that's a major red flag. Okay. What about when they compare themselves to, well, themselves?
Yeah, that leads nicely to the fourth tactic. The lesser of two evils, or irrelevant claims. A company might say their product is greener because maybe it uses slightly less plastic than their old version.
Right. Less bad doesn't mean good.
Precisely. It might still be a terrible amount of plastic. Or they'll highlight something that's true but totally irrelevant, like saying a cleaning product is CFC-free. Well, yeah, CFCs have been banned for decades.
Huh. That's cheeky.
It is. Windex got criticized for claiming to be non-toxic, while kind of ignoring the bigger picture, the plastic bottle, the chemicals involved, the whole life cycle impact.
Okay, so watch out for misleading comparisons and irrelevant facts. What else?
Fifth, hidden trade-offs. This is when a company shines a spotlight on one single positive environmental thing while keeping other significant negative impacts hidden in the shadows. For example, a product made from recycled materials sounds great, right? But what if the process to make it is incredibly polluting or uses tons of energy?
So looking at just one piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. Unilever's Dove body wash, for instance, got some scrutiny. They highlighted using recycled plastic bottles, which is good, but the production of those bottles still involves fossil fuels and chemicals. And then there were questions about the environmental impact of the body wash itself. It's about not telling the whole story.
So it's not enough for just one part to be green. You really need to look at the whole picture, the entire life cycle. Are there more sort of blatant forms?
Oh, definitely. 6 is just outright lies or lack of proof. Sometimes companies simply make claims in their marketing that are demonstrably false. Or, more commonly perhaps, they just lack any verifiable evidence to back up their claims. If they can't show you the data, the reports, the third-party audits, be suspicious.
If they can't prove it, don't assume it's true. Makes sense.
Seventh tactic, selective disclosure. This is a bit like the hidden trade-off, but maybe broader. It involves revealing only the positive environmental stuff while deliberately omitting the negative information. Amazon, for example, got criticized for heavily promoting its investments in renewable energy, which is good, but not being equally transparent about the huge carbon footprint of its massive global logistics network. It's spinning the narrative.
Only showing the shiny bits.
Pretty much. Eighth, a lack of sustainability initiatives or overall commitment. Sometimes companies make a big fuss about really minor environmental actions that have very little actual impact. They use it as a marketing ploy to look eco-conscious. Think about Starbucks promoting the elimination of plastic straws. It was very visible, got a lot of attention.
Yeah, I remember that.
But they continued using plastic cups and plastic lids, which contribute enormously to plastic pollution. It was a small gesture that potentially deflected attention from much larger systemic issues.
A token effort, almost.
Could be seen that way. And finally, ninth, overstating benefits. Just straight up exaggerating a product's environmental advantages. Apple faced criticism for apparently cherry-picking data in its sustainability reports highlighting specific wins while maybe downplaying ongoing problems in their supply chain or the environmental cost of constantly launching new devices.
Wow, that's quite the playbook.
It is. And it raises that question again. Why do these tactics work? Well, they tap into our psychology, our desire to do good. They use marketing principles to manipulate us, leveraging that genuine wish to make responsible choices. So yeah, remember to look for those unsubstantiated claims, the vague or ambiguous claims, the hitting trade-offs. Check those certifications carefully, watch out for selective disclosure, and always, always demand verifiable evidence.
That's a really powerful checklist, and it really highlights just how subtle and frankly manipulative this can be. But okay, beyond just being fooled when we're shopping, what are the bigger consequences here? It sounds like this could actually damage the whole effort towards genuine sustainability.
It absolutely does. The consequences are serious and far-reaching. First, and maybe most importantly, it deeply erodes trust. It damages trust in all environmental claims, not just the fake ones. This makes it so much harder for the genuinely sustainable businesses, the ones really doing the work, to get recognized and supported. That European Commission finding you mentioned, 42% of green claims being exaggerated, false, or deceptive, that's staggering.
42%, that's almost half.
Exactly. And when trust is eroding like that, it seriously hinders real progress because consumers just become cynical about any company claiming to be green. They throw their hands up.
Yeah, you just stop believing any of it.
Precisely. Second major consequence, a severe misallocation of resources. Think about it. Money, time, effort that could be going into actual impactful environmental improvements, reducing carbon footprints, cleaning up supply chains, investing in innovation instead gets funneled into these deceptive marketing campaigns. It prevents meaningful investment in real sustainability. That report finding 95% of green products committing at least one greenwashing vice. That represents a monumental waste of resources that could be solving actual problems.
So it's not just misleading, it's actively diverting resources away from real solutions. That's incredibly frustrating.
It really is. Third, it effectively encourages harmful practices. Greenwashing acts like a shield, allowing companies to carry on with environmentally damaging activities without facing accountability, all because they put on this green mask. It diverts attention and delays crucial action.
It lets them off the hook.
In a way, yes. And fourth, flowing from that, it directly delays climate action. Think about misleading net zero targets or pledges, especially ones that rely heavily on questionable carbon offsets. They create this illusion of progress. But if these claims aren't backed by real, verifiable action, they don't just fail to help. They can actually make things worse by creating complacency. Some argue it pushes us closer to the climate cliff. It also weakens the hand of regulators trying to push for genuine change.
Wow. Okay, so eroding trust, wasting resources, enabling bad practices, delaying climate action, any other impacts?
Yes, a few more direct ones. Fifth, consumers often end up overpaying. If you're tricked into thinking a product is genuinely green, you might pay that sustainability premium we talked about, only to find out you overpaid for something that didn't deliver.
You pay extra for a lie, essentially.
Pretty much. Sixth, there's significant reputational damage for the company if they get caught. Greenwashing scandals can severely harm a brand, leading to a huge loss of consumer trust, which can have major financial impacts down the road. Those studies showing nearly half of consumers would avoid brands caught greenwashing. That hits the bottom line.
So getting caught really hurts.
Increasingly so. And that leads to the seventh point, growing legal and regulatory risks. We're seeing a major uptick in regulatory scrutiny and litigation risk around the world. Regulators in the EU, the UK, the US, they're all taking much tougher stances. Companies found guilty can face really substantial financial penalties. Those new EU laws mention fines up to 4% of annual turnover. And the number of climate-related lawsuits has nearly doubled in just the last 3 years.
4% of revenue, that's not pocket change.
Not at all. It shows the regulators are serious. So if you connect all these dots, you see it's not just about a dodgy label on a bottle of shampoo. It's systemic. It impacts the credibility of the entire sustainability movement, it wastes vital resources, it damages trust, and it actively hinders our ability to tackle urgent environmental challenges. It really touches on everything from reputational damage and litigation risk to the integrity of net zero targets and carbon offsets.
That paints a really stark picture of why this matters so much. Okay, so let's pivot to solutions. How can you, our listener, navigate this minefield? Now that we know the tactics and the stakes, what can people actually do? And on the flip side, what about companies that genuinely want to do the right thing? How do they make sure they avoid greenwashing?
Right, let's talk action. For you, the consumer, making informed choices is key. There are several strategies. First and foremost, look for proof. Don't just take their word for it. Legitimate claims should be backed by verifiable evidence.
Like what kind of evidence?
Things like reputable third-party certifications, we mentioned some earlier. Detailed sustainability reports with actual data, not just fluffy statements. Transparent information about their supply chain. If they're making a claim, they should be able to show you how they back it up.
Okay, demand proof. What else?
Beware vague language. We talked about terms like green or eco-friendly. If a claim isn't specific about how or why something is environmentally beneficial, be skeptical. Ask how exactly.
Right, push for specifics.
Also, actively check for hidden trade-offs. Think about the product's entire life cycle. Where did the materials come from? How was it made? How do you use it? What happens when you dispose of it? Don't just focus on one green aspect they might be highlighting. And assess the company's consistency. Is this one green product an outlier? Or does the company seem genuinely committed to sustainability across its entire operations? Look for consistency.
So look beyond the single product to the whole company.
Exactly. And related to that, scrutinize the marketing and imagery. Don't let those pretty pictures of mountains or the green packaging fool you. They don't automatically mean good environmental practices. Judge the substance, not the style. Finally, try to verify the company's overall commitment. Do a bit of research. Look for comprehensive sustainability reports and read them critically. Check their track record. Are they transparent about their goals and their progress, including the challenges?
Those are really practical steps for consumers. Thanks. Now, what about companies? How do they stay on the right side of this? You mentioned greenwashing earlier, avoiding talking about sustainability to avoid scrutiny. That doesn't sound like the answer either.
No, greenwashing isn't the answer, especially as transparency becomes more expected, even required. For companies wanting to avoid greenwashing and build genuine trust, it really boils down to three pillars: good governance, transparent disclosure, and rigorous due diligence.
Okay, break those down. Governance.
Governance means having clear internal policies and processes around sustainability claims. It means training employees, showing them examples of good practice versus bad greenwashing claims. It means staying up to date on the evolving market standards and, crucially, the regulations. It's about embedding sustainability genuinely into the company culture.
Makes sense. Build it in from the inside. Disclosure.
Disclosure is all about being accurate, clear, and understandable. Avoid jargon. If you use broad terms like green, you absolutely must explain what you mean, provide the evidence, and make sure it's verifiable. Critically, avoid that cherry picking. Don't just highlight the good news and hide the bad. Be balanced. Use disclaimers appropriately, especially for future goals or forward-looking statements. And seriously consider getting third-party verification for your claims and having legal teams review them. Transparency is key.
Okay, be honest, be clear, get it checked. And due diligence.
Due diligence is about doing the homework. Companies need to rigorously review their current environmental claims. Are they truly justifiable? Are they based on solid facts and current science? They also need to assess whether their future goals, like net zero commitments, are actually achievable and based on realistic science-based assumptions. This includes doing proper due diligence on any carbon offsets they plan to use. Understanding the difference between high-quality carbon removal credits versus potentially less impactful carbon avoidance credits is absolutely vital here. That's a whole complex area in itself.
This is really digging into the substance of the claims and the plans. It sounds like it's not just about avoiding outright lies, but also about making sure good intentions are actually backed up.
Exactly, and that brings us to a couple of related terms you might hear. It's not always active deception. There's also greenwashing.
Greenwashing.
Yeah, that's when companies genuinely try to implement sustainability measures, but they do it poorly, maybe due to lack of expertise, planning, or resources, and it ends up causing more harm than good, or just being ineffective. Well-intentioned, but badly executed.
Ah, okay. The road to environmental hell is paved with good intentions, poorly executed.
Something like that. And then there's greenwashing. This describes having noble environmental goals and intentions, but without any realistic, concrete plans or achievable targets to actually get there. It's aspirational, but lacks substance.
So wishful thinking without the groundwork.
Precisely. But focusing back on active greenwashing, what's really standing out now for you, the listener, and for companies is that increasing global regulatory pushback. We're seeing bodies like the FTC in the U.S. updating its green guides, the EU rolling out its green claims directive and related rules, the U.K. authorities like the ASA, CMA, and FCA implementing anti-greenwashing rules. They're all actively working to define clearer standards and penalize deceptive practices.
So the net is tightening.
It definitely seems that way. And similar initiatives are popping up in Asia, Brazil.
Yeah.
It's becoming a global trend towards demanding greater accountability and transparency.
Okay. Wow, we've covered a huge amount in this deep dive. We've gone from, the definition and the history of greenwashing through all those sneaky tactics companies might use, looked at the really serious consequences, and landed on some actionable steps for both consumers and businesses. It seems crystal clear that understanding greenwashing, being able to spot it, is just essential knowledge in today's world.
It really is. And the landscape is shifting. Yes, greenwashing is still incredibly pervasive. You see it everywhere. But the combination of growing public awareness, media scrutiny, and these stronger regulatory actions is starting to push for greater accountability. Ultimately, though, the real power lies in two places. With conscious consumers like you making informed choices and demanding transparency, and with those truly committed companies who are driving genuine environmental progress, not just focusing on appearances.
So as you, our listener, go about your day now, hopefully empowered with this new knowledge, maybe ask yourself, what will you do next time you encounter a green claim? How will you verify it? And maybe think bigger too. How can we all contribute to fostering a world that moves beyond the green veneer and truly embraces things like the circular economy and genuine ESG criteria? Something to think about.